Voitalk Indonesia.
Hello, Voice listener. Welcome to Voitalk. And listener, the Ministry of Protection of Indonesia Migrant Workers has set a target of placing 425,000 Indonesian citizens in overseas jobs in 2025. One of the country is South Korea. And how is the implementation of this program? And right now, my name is Ray. Joining me today is the Charge d'Affaires at Interim of the Indonesian Embassy in Seoul, South Korea, Ibu Zelda Wulan Kartika. Good morning, Bu. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Mas Ray. I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, how is the current condition of South Korea right now, in Seoul especially?
Well, the weather is getting warmer because it's now spring. And so it's a very nice weather actually for visiting South Korea right now.
Okay, not just the weather, but there's also something warm about the information, about an interesting information, where Indonesian government plan to send more Indonesian migrant workers to South Korea. And how is the possibility or chances that it might be happening?
Yes, so we are aware that Vice Minister of Protection of Indonesian Migrant Workers, Ibu Christina Aryani, has met with Ambassador Cecep Herawan, who is the Indonesian ambassador designate to South Korea early this month. So as far as I know, the meeting was to ask for ambassadors' views on the possibility of increasing the placement of Indonesian migrant workers in South Korea. This placement is aimed at expanding employment opportunities to work abroad and bring multiple benefits to Indonesia and Korea. So our migrant workers support the growth and development in their countries of destination, including the labor shortage issue in Korea, while Indonesia would also benefit from their remittances and the skills acquired during their working experience abroad. This means if the placement increases, Indonesia would also gain more benefit from migrant workers' placement. So considering the important meaning of this placement, we have to make sure the policy of the new government of Korea, they are going to have the presidential election in June 3rd, would support and meet our objective. So for this purpose, the Embassy of Indonesia in Seoul continues engaging closely with the Korean government in exploring not only on sector and quota expansions for the existing G2G scheme, but also exploring other sectors for professionals and high-skilled workers using P2P and individual job application.
Okay, that is really interesting insight about it. And what kind of jobs that are available for Indonesian migrant workers in South Korea, and what is possibly the most interesting one that Indonesian migrant workers can take?
So based on the schemes with Korea, there are some sectors that Indonesian migrant workers can fill in. First, for the G2G scheme, they use the E9 visa. Indonesian migrant workers can work in manufacture and fishing sectors. As I mentioned before, that the type of the visa is E9. And secondly, for P2P scheme and also individually applied jobs, they use E7 and E10 visa. E71 visa is for professional workers such as senior executive, manager, engineer, and so on. And also the second one is E72 visa for semi-professional worker, for example, chef. And third is the E73 visa for general workers such as shipbuilding welder, aircraft mechanic, and manufacturer. And the fourth one is E10 visa. This is for vessel crew.
There are many interesting jobs for Indonesian to take there. And there are more than 50,000 of Indonesian migrant workers in South Korea as we speak of right now. And what makes South Korean company interested to Indonesian migrant workers?
Well, Korea's working environment is hard and demanding. So, in facing these challenges, most company owners in South Korea commend good behavior, determination, and diligence of our Indonesian migrant workers, as well as their strong desire to learn and do more. The companies are also in favor and appreciate Indonesian migrant workers' good solidarity and helpful attitude, not only among Indonesian workers, but also with other migrant workers and Korea society. You might be aware that there are 3 Indonesian migrant workers have recently received an award of a permanent resident visa by the Korean government as an appreciation for their good deeds in helping and saving many Korean people from a fire disaster in Yongdok village in southern part of South Korea. This reflects a concrete evidence that our Indonesian migrant workers are not only good workers, but also have good sense of humanity. So that's what the Korean people like about Indonesian migrant worker.
Okay, so that is really interesting because 3 Indonesian migrant workers is accepting permanent visas to stay in South Korea as we
permanent residence.
Permanent residence, yes, in South Korea because of the hard work, diligence, and also the thinking of other people instead of their own. We must really appreciate it, and I hope the best for them. And of course, what kind of approach that needs to be done so that Indonesian migrant workers gain trust and chances to work in South Korea? Do they have to do the same thing as the 3 people that you've mentioned before, or?
Yeah, well, hopefully. We believe that the awards is the affirmation of trust for the Korean government, the companies, and society to Indonesian migrant workers. So the approach that needs to be taken is how to maintain that trust. There are 2 ways. First, the Indonesian government should send skilled workers who must excel in their job. So Korea's Sajang is the boss, the owners of the company. They prefer to choose a ready-to-use worker and mastering Korean language to fasten the production process in their company. And second, to ensure that Indonesian migrant workers complete their job contract while adapt with Korean tradition and culture, as well as obey Korean government rules and regulations. These terms must be understood by Indonesian migrant workers before they are recruited or during the pre-departure program. So those two ways are very important in maintaining the trust that the Korean people, the Korean government grant to Indonesian workers.
Okay, so before Indonesian workers start to go to South Korea, is there like any training that is being given to Indonesian migrant workers in Indonesia before they go to South Korea? Is there any like specific schools from Indonesia?
Yes, as far as I know, there is a program, the pre-departure program. This is conducted by the Ministry of the Protection of Indonesian Migrant Worker, or P2MI. So they usually it is located in Jakarta, if not mistaken. Before they are brought to South Korea, before they depart to South Korea.
So they must be ready before, so they can immediately start working in South Korea.
Yes, for sure. They should be ready for that.
Of course. And so, for the first stage, is there any targets until the end of this year?
So you mean the program of that, the one that was being discussed by the Vice Minister and the Ambassador?
Yes, that is the one.
So the program hasn't been discussed officially by the government. So we at the embassy, we are still, I still don't know about this, the stages. However, the embassy of Indonesia in Seoul is always working closely in engaging the Korean government in the efforts to increase the placement quota of Indonesian migrant workers through existing schemes and job sectors, as well as exploring new sectors. Some new job sectors are still in the process by the Korean government, such as painting and electrician sectors for shipbuilding. And we are also looking for opportunities to open new sectors that can recruit more Indonesian migrant workers. But of course, if I may, I would like to underline that we need to nurture more competent and valuable migrant workers so that we can gain the most benefit of increasing Indonesian migrant workers abroad, especially in South Korea.
Okay. So what is the first thing for the embassy do after the workers arrive in South Korea?
So usually our labor attaché, they will meet them at the airport, and then the labor attaché will also accompany the workers to their respective companies and make sure that they are in touch with the embassy, and also the most important is to spread the information about the local rules and regulations, how to live in South Korea and the culture, and how to adapt easily to the situation, to the society in South Korea, because it's so different from Indonesia actually. So they have to work harder for sure. As you are aware, that South Korea, they like working harder, fast. We call it pali. So our Indonesian workers must adapt to that culture of work.
Okay. So maybe I think this will be the most interesting question. Is there any specific residential area for Indonesian migrant workers to live together, or maybe live near the office or near the embassy for the safety of the Indonesian migrant workers?
So the workers, they usually live near their company where they work. So not near the embassy for sure. Okay. This is because the location of their companies are located outside of Seoul. Okay. So their companies usually they have their dormitory for the workers. So they live there. So they have their own dormitory for sure.
Okay, but they can easily contact the embassy if needed.
Yes, for sure.
Assistance.
For sure, and we really hope that they would contact the embassy and report about their arrival in South Korea, so that we can, if there is anything happen to them, we can the embassy can reach them and to help them.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Ibu Zelda, Wulan, Kartika, for your time, and hopefully, for listener, Indonesia will be able to fulfill the global demands for human resources that have reached 1.3 million. And listener, that was the special interview in Voitalk for today. I'm Ray, and I'll see you again on the next Voitalk.
Voice of Indonesia.